Hello, hello, hello. This is Tanika, and I am the mindful coach and life enthusiast. And this is Mind Your Business. And tonight, this is Mindful Thoughts with Frank and Tanika, and we will be talking about creating giants.
Frank Steens, and as he said, we'll be talking about creating giants and see where this goes and see what comes up on that.
All right. So, you want to get started, or do you have anything you want to open with?
I guess we can kind of, why do we create giants? Why do we make things more difficult than it has to be?
Well, when I thought about this topic, it made me think back to one of our plenaries that we had in our BOE class, and I was going through my notes, and it was funny because I was reading through my notes, and immediately it says, "Stop creating giants when you don't want to do something." And I was like, "Ain't that the truth?" Mm-hmm. And the Bible tells us, "Let your no be no, and let your yes be yes."
Right.
And oftentimes, when we are tasked to do something, we will get upset and be like, when someone asks you to do something, you'll say, "Yes, I'll do it." But then as soon as you say yes, you'll get an attitude and you really don't want to do it. And so you'll create all these scenarios on why you don't want to do it or why you shouldn't do it instead of just saying no in the first place. Hello, thank you for joining us tonight. Welcome to Mind Your Business. What? Yes. So that's what I thought this would be a good topic just to talk about. Why do we do that? Why don't we just say what we feel or say what we mean instead of saying what we think people want to hear?
That's true. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people, their first instinct is to say yes. They'll do whatever somebody asks, thinking you're going to upset somebody, opposed to, so you'll just internalize everything else after you give your yes. So that is kind of true, creating giants to keep from doing what you need to do.
Yeah, and I think sometimes too, a lot of times when you're asked to do something or when you're faced with a challenge, sometimes it looks bigger than what you think you can accomplish on your own, or sometimes it's overwhelming, or you think it's bigger than what you can handle, and so it may give you anxiety, or it may make you have some kind of angst and feeling like, how am I supposed to do that? How am I supposed to accomplish that? So you start talking yourself out of it. You start thinking of, what am I going to do? And sometimes you don't have to do it alone. Sometimes you are the one that's asked to do it because you're the one that is capable. You just don't know it yet.
I think we have to realize that the way our body is designed, like the fight or flight response, which shows when you're in danger or when your body goes into a different metamorphosis in order to protect itself. Your eyes dilate a little bit larger. Your blood rushes to your body, and you can do things that you normally wouldn't be able to do. You can take off running faster. But it's called fight or flight. So your body is preparing for war or is preparing to flee. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing when it comes to creating giants. Your body's is designed to protect itself. So it's the same thing. Like when you are setting out to do something that's important, or you're setting out to accomplish a new task, your body automatically goes into a shutdown mode of wanting to tell you that this is going to be too difficult, it's going to be too hard, and your mind starts playing tricks on you too. Like you start creating these giants and thinking it's going to be too difficult. I remember when I was the first time I went to preschool, and this is the first time I've been in any kind of school at that time, and I still remember this for some reason. Like I don't remember a lot of stuff at 4 or 5 years old or whatever age I was, but my cousin, we were about the same age. She went before I did. And when I went into the classroom, I seen, like, I got giants going on now.
Oh my God, my little girl.
Get out of here.
She's 6 years old, but hold on. Truthfully, he doesn't know what's happening. She is trying to start the dishwasher. And so she has soap in her hands. She just asked us for something to drink. So I'm thinking she's trying to make her a drink, a juice drink. And so she's showing me the the packet. And so I'm looking over and immediately I'm starting to think that she's trying to make a juice packet. But truthfully, what she's doing is trying to set the dishwasher. Because all of our girls have chores and her chore is to mop the floor. But right now she is trying to set the dishwasher and her bedtime is 9 o'clock. And on Thursdays we have free for all.
So this is her way
you
to
get
stay
to you get to eat whatever you want on Thursdays and you got to make your own meal. But she is actually trying to help. So I'm very thankful that's what she's trying to do. But it's really funny that she's doing that because she's being a distraction.
But she gets to stay up later by doing this too.
But truthfully, she's really being a distraction is what she's doing. So why are you doing that?
I don't think we use this.
Yeah, that's not what we use because that goes in the washing machine. But thank you anyways.
Thanks, thanks, but no
so
thanks.
Put that up and get you something to drink and then you go to bed. But thank you for your efforts. We appreciate it. Okay. And now, can you go back? I'm sorry.
I don't know where I was at on that,
but that's what happens.
What was I saying?
I don't even know because I know she was over there doing craziness, but she was really trying to help. No, just get you something to drink and go to bed. It's enough. It's okay.
This is
her
way of staying up.
Yeah, that's what she does. So. You go ahead and think about what you were talking about, it because I can reference something real quick.
Right.
But so I want to reference Numbers 13:30 through 33, and it talks about when they were going up to go over the mountain, and it says, "And Caleb silenced the people before Moses and said, 'We should go up and take possession of the land, for we can certainly do it.' But the men who had gone up with him said, 'We cannot attack those people. They are stronger than we are.' And they spread among the Israelites a bad report about the land they had explored. They said, 'The land we explored devours those living in it. All the people we saw there are of great size. We saw the Nephilim. They're the descendants of the Anak, come from the Nephilim. We seem like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we look the same to them.'" And what happened is, they said that they couldn't slay them because they were like giants. And they were like, these are greater than us. And they gave a bad report because they didn't want to go. And why they gave that bad report is because they felt like it was something that was greater than them. But we all know with God, anything is possible. So if they just believed and if they had that faith, they would have been able to do what they needed to do. And so as I was talking, it just reminded me of what you were talking about. And you were talking about the first time you went to preschool, and you were saying that your cousin had already been to school before you.
Yeah, when I went in there, they said, "Okay, here's your new preschool class." So it's like 35 to 40 kids in there, and the only person I recognized was my cousin.
Right.
So I just, as a young kid, I instantly ran to where her desk was and sat on the floor.
Uh-huh.
I mean, because I was unfamiliar with them, so it seemed like it was a giant step for me at that point in time, and I wasn't familiar with it, so I wanted to shut down instead of being able just to. And if she wasn't there, it would have had to been a whole different type of situation. I would have been on my own, basically. But that's way things are. So that's what I was
right. And anytime you face something new, it does look larger than life to you. Whenever you're facing something, it's foreign to you because you're not familiar with it. But do you hold yourself back, or do you make up excuses? Do you talk yourself out of it? And why do we do that? Again, because you say it's a fight or flight experience. And so we have to learn that in some situations we've been conditioned to protect ourselves against the unknown, to protect ourselves against taking steps towards new experiences. And so we have to remember that we were made fearfully and wonderfully, and that we have to not worry, because if we know who's guiding our footsteps and who's making our path straight, then we know that we cannot conquer any giant alone. Mm-hmm. And we can't fight giants. Now, David, he was able to conquer giants, and why? But he didn't do it alone.
Right. That's the same thing, like the preschool thing. When I first went into it, I seen I seen giants instantly, and that's what Mark 8 is talking about. It says, and he took the blind man by the hand and led him out of the town. And when he had spit on his eyes and put his hands upon him, he asked him if he saw aught. And he looked up and said, I see a man as trees walking. After that, he put his hands again upon his eyes and made him look up and was restored and saw every man clearly. So to me, this scripture right here is the same thing. Like when he first was healed, because his eyes is open the first time.
Right.
The first thing you see, and it was overwhelming for him. He seen men as trees, and the funny thing is, what I noticed out of this scripture is that God is an all-knowing being, but when Jesus came down to earth, he used divine nature with human nature to be able to do miracles. Like, see, God at the beginning was saying things like, let there be light, and he was just speaking things into existence. But when Jesus came, he would use things like spit. And I was thinking, like, if somebody was to tell me right now, like, hey, my eye was hurting, and they if my eye was hurting, and they said, okay, I'm about to spit in your eye, I would jump,
right, you would.
I would jump back.
Like, you ain't gonna spit in my
because
eye.
I'm like, it don't hurt that bad. But see, when something is when your desire becomes stronger than the process, then that's when you can overcome. Because being able to see was way more instrumental for him than somebody spitting on his eye. Because on the second verse, when he said, I can't see anything, or I see man as trees, the second verse, he said he just put his hands on his eyes. He didn't spit on it the second time. So the spit wasn't the thing that healed him necessarily. It was the belief that healed him.
Right. And that's the thing. We have to, in order to conquer our fears, we've got to be able to overcome. Right. And I remember there was a time when I was afraid of spiders. And there's so many different scenarios I could use, but I was afraid of spiders. And then I had read this article about overcoming your fears and how if you are afraid of spiders, and you're going to attract them, whatever you're afraid of or whatever you're scared of, you're going to attract more of it. And that's the opposite of whatever you feel good about, you're going to attract that too. And so if you can attract goodness, you can attract bad too. And so whatever you think on, those are the things you're going to attract. And so it's like every time I turned around, there were spiders. And so I just started to learn that every time I saw a spider, I was like, I'm not going to be afraid of spiders. I'm not. And so now when I see a spider, I just laugh, and I'm reminded of I am not fearful of spiders, but I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. And then I know, like, when we go to amusement parks and I get on a roller coaster and it goes up, and it's like the thing about it, when it goes up and it goes up and it goes up, and then when it starts to go down, it's like your heart falls to the bottom of your stomach. But I will never forget the first time I got on a roller coaster with my child on a roller coaster with me in the front of me, and she had never been on a roller coaster before, and she was terrified. And I couldn't do anything. I couldn't sit with her. I couldn't hold her. I couldn't embrace her. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And at that moment, all my fear went away. The only thing that I could do is just hope that she was okay. But I was no longer scared. I was no longer afraid. I just wanted to know that my baby girl was okay. And so my fear went out the door, you know, and it's like, there was nothing for me to be scared of anymore. And that feeling that happens when your heart drops to the bottom of your stomach, I didn't feel that anymore. And it's just weird, the situations that you can be put in and how you can overcome those fears. And so I think a lot of it is all in your mind. And when you learn to overcome those thoughts and those emotions and those feelings of fear, it helps you to understand it's doubt.
And that's why he said, don't be afraid and don't fear.
Yeah. So what you just said was the difference was when he healed the man and he put his hands over his eyes the second time, and why he was healed and he could see the first time is because he believed. And the reason why we get into that state of fight or flight, and because we get upset and because we create giants, is because of the doubt we have of not believing enough that we can conquer these giants. But we don't have to conquer the giants alone.
Right. shouldn't conquer any of them alone.
Yeah, and we don't have to create the giants in order to do something that we don't want to do.
Right. Well, you have to realize that that's human nature. They're going to be created. That says weapons are formed, but they will not prosper. So things are going to create themselves in front of you at any time. Your body is going to do it, and that's the flesh, because the flesh is at odds with God. It says it all the time in the Bible, and the spirit is opposed to the flesh. So those things are going to happen. You just have to know how to overcome them and press forward and continue to do what you need to do. So, I mean, at some point in time, you'll get into a point where you have complete belief. But I mean, the way the body is designed, it's always at odds. It's going to something that's going to come up to where you might try to have some kind of self-doubt or self unbelief or even fear might even try to jump in at different times. But you have to know what that is and know how to work around it and learn how to press forward and know who has your back and who's really fighting these battles for you. And that's why it says, don't, you're not fighting any battles. Let the Lord fight them for you anyway.
Right. Yeah, but see, the difference is weapons will form. They won't prosper. But there's a difference in the battles that are going on and the battles that you create.
Yeah, now creating giants is another thing. Yeah, because I mean, there's a yin and yang to everything. There's always a negative and a positive side to everything. But yeah, creating your own giants. If we're on that topic, yeah, you're self. That's more like self-sabotage. Like you're already up against a lot, but now you're creating these other things, and that's more, I think, it's ego. You know, like your ego stands in the way, and you start making situations that's called making a mountain out of a molehill, or taking things out of proportion. That's all these different phrases that people use, is when you just take things to another level that they really don't need to go. I mean, that can go so many different things. It can be in discussions. It can be in heated debates, arguments. It can be in anything that you do. You're just creating giants that don't need to be there, because you're taking God out of the situation. It's your ego that creates these situations to where you can have something to fight.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's really not even true. Like, because I think about, that's what I was getting at about going to the preschool for the first time, is that what I was afraid of wasn't really true. It wasn't really there.
Yeah.
And what you're scared of half the time, if you think about anything that you've been through in life that you overcome, say 15, 20 years ago, and you thought it was the end of the world, and you're past that. Now you're on to a whole nother set of issues that you're trying to accomplish now. But you have to go back to those situations before and bring the scraps on your boat with you, and realize that, okay, we fed 5,000. I seen him feed 5,000 before. I seen him feed 4,000 before. I got the scraps right here on the boat to prove it. So, I mean, those situations, I know that I can overcome these new ones because I've seen it happen before. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people have to get out of their own way and stop creating these giants that are extra. Yeah. That's what we're talking about today.
Yeah. I met a gentleman today that is going to be coming on the show, and he's really interested because he's a climber, and I met him in the human library, and he's gonna tell his own story, but I just want to share a few of the things that we talked about. And he was on I think he had a broadcast show that he was on, and he started sending his story to networks here in the States. And then he got picked up by one of the networks, and they paid for him to go and climb. And that's what he wanted to do. And so he came over here, and the name of his book is called Immigrant or Polyamorous. And so he came over here, and he started climbing. He started doing the work and things that he wanted to do. And he came over here with a backpack and $1,000. That's all he had. And now he owns his own house, and he does all these great things. And, my thought to him was, because he tells the story in a way that people think immigrants are these poor, desolate people. And he's telling the story to people, no, that's not the truth, because he said his mother and father are doing well where they're from. And he was always used to doing hard work and working for anything. And my question was, when you come across people that say, life is hard and it's not easy and these things happen, I said, what is the difference? And he said he believes it's because of not asking for help. And so when you said, oh, so that's the thing, because there is help out there. There are places that you can go, or people you can talk to, or doors you can knock on. but we have not because we ask not. And it kept on resonating with me that our help comes from the Lord. And he said, ask anything in my son's name, and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down. And so I think we lack, and we create these giants and we build these walls because we do have this ego and we have too much pride. And when pride comes, shame follows, and we set ourselves up for failure every time because we're unwilling to seek, ask, and knock. And I think that's what a lot of times creates our giants because we get in our own way. We create self-doubt. We put ourselves in situations where we don't want to say what our needs are. And then if someone asks us if we need help, we'll deny that we do. If someone asks us to help
That's
them,
pride.
if someone asks us to help them, we'll get upset and we don't want to put in the work and we don't know what kind of blessing we can be to someone else and what kind of doors that can open for us. And so a lot of times we get in our own way. We create these giants, we create these obstacles when it's unnecessary. Just like in order for us to get to the other side, there's some things we might have to do. There's some things we might have to go through. But instead, we're going to say, well, it's snow outside and this is going on. Well, we might have to shovel the snow to get out of our driveway. But once we get that snow shoveled, we can get out of the driveway. But that's what you have to do to get out.
Right.
But some people are unwilling to do those things. They'll just wait till the snow melts, and now the opportunity is passed.
Right. That's true. I mean, the Bible talks about. I don't know why. I keep going back to the Bible, but
why not?
It says we create faith in wilderness, and a lot of times when we create these giants, even though it seems like it's not really something that we have to do or something that we should do, these are things that we need to experience. Your body and your mind kind of leads the way, and it leads your path. Like sometimes we create things that we need to experience in order to get to another level, and that's kind of why some of that happens. But the thing is like you're going to go through those things anyway. There's really not a reason to create extra ones. You're pretty much going to go through different wildernesses and pass. That's what this whole time on earth is about. There's always going to be a situation where there's uncertainty. The only thing that we can tell you that's for sure is nothing's for sure. What I'm saying? There's nothing that's going to be guaranteed down here on this earth. The only thing that's guaranteed is that we can spend eternity with Jesus Christ if we trust and believe in him. But other than that, this time here is for us to be able to lean on him. This time is for us to be able to show in the times of darkness and in transgressions and iniquities and when arrows are shot at you, that we can trust and believe in God no matter what situation we're going through and no matter what what we find ourselves in. But creating your own giants can be kind of hindrance because you're just creating extra things that is going to go on anyway. You have to realize that they're going to happen and they're going to take place, and we have to be able to push through some of those things.
Absolutely. Sister Carolyn says a house is not a home without God, and life is not lived without God. And that is so true. And that's why whatever we do, it always comes back to God. No matter what you've got going on, you can't cut God out of it. And that leads me to my next thing. You can't slay giants by yourself, but with God, all things are possible. God is the giant slayer, and what he has for you is for you. So whatever, I said this the other night, I said this, that at the end of my shows, I always say, remember, you were created with purpose. And the purpose is this: God has predestined you and purposed you with a plan. He has a purpose and a plan for your life. And that plan is not going to come back to him void. And so whatever that plan he has over your life, he is going to give you the desires of your heart so that when it comes back to him, he's going to get the glory for it. And so whatever he has for you, it's real. You have to reach out and claim it. You cannot deny what it is that God has for you because it's yours. and it's undeniable. And so when we start creating these giants that aren't even real, what do? You got to go to the one who created you, the only one that can help you in that time when you have doubt and despair. Because he told you this. He said, in this world, there will be trouble, but take heart. I have overcome the world. And lo, I am with you always, even until the end. And so there's nothing to fear or worry. You don't have to put up these false what is it? These
false narratives.
Yeah, the false narratives. You do not have to put up the false narratives. You do not have to create these things in your mind. And again, Joyce Myers, she has a whole segment that is called Battlefield of the Mind. If you've not read that series, you should read it, because it's really imperative to understand what it is that is trying to keep you from the promises of God. And again, when somebody reaches out to you and asks you for anything, don't hesitate. He said, if you have something and someone asks you for it, give it away, because you don't know where your blessing comes from. And if someone wants something from you and you have it to give it to them, and don't expect it back, because that's not where you're going to get your blessing from. It will come from somewhere else. I'm telling you, I'm working on a project right now that is purely volunteer. And God has blessed me in a whole different direction in full. And I'm just so thankful that God saw fit. But that's called being obedient. And when you walk in obedience, God will guide you and he will make a way for you. And so you don't have to worry about how things are going to go. You don't have to worry about what's going to happen next. If you just believe, then everything will work out. But if you doubt, then you are going to have more troubles. Because see, the thing is, no matter what you're going through, it could be worse, depending on how you look at the situation, depending on how you perceive the outcome. That's how things are going to go. But if you just continue to walk on water, and see, that's the thing. People don't understand your struggles. They don't understand your struggles. So this is my take on it. I'm like a duck on water. I look like I'm floating across. That's how you walk on water. Look like you're floating across. But see, nobody sees your struggle and what's going on underneath that water. Nobody sees that. But see, as you're floating across, that's God carrying you. That is God carrying you. And so don't worry about what people think about you. Don't worry about what people say about you. Don't worry about the ones who've counted you out, the ones who doubted you, the ones who let you down, the ones who threw you away. That's okay, because God will make all things new. And so whatever battle you're fighting, whatever giants that you think that you're coming up against, our God is greater. Our God is stronger. Our God is mighty. And so you cannot kill giants with somebody else's might. Only God. Trust in him, give it to him, and know God and God alone will fight the battle for you.
I mean, what we need to realize is that when we when we go through, I've been fighting giants all week. I mean, my mind is not completely here right now, but that's the beauty of everything. I like being tested, because it gives you a chance to see who you trust in and believe in. There's always things around you that are trying to take your attention and always trying to trip you up, and you have to be cognizant of that. And I mean, in the midst of everything that's going on, there's beauty being produced at the same time, just like Esther. Esther was the beauty in that situation. And that's what you have to realize. Like she said, she has things that's transpiring in her life, and so do I. And the same thing as far as what we need to realize is that when you overcome these giants that are put in your life, when you overcome even the ones that you create, there's something that's behind that's meaningful and that's worthwhile. Just like just when Moses ran off into the wilderness for 40 years, he left at 40, ran off for 40 years, and he talked to God in the wilderness. And there was something behind that. He became a great person after that. And the same with everybody else in the Bible. David, the same thing. He got through his obstacle from the things that he did when he was younger and became well, actually, he did things did some great things as a young person, but did some things as he got older. But he still became great in that time too. So no matter what mistakes that we make, those are giants in our life too. You have to be able to overcome them. Things that we create, we have to be able to overcome those too. If we go back to the story of David, David was he was the youngest of 8 brothers. He had brothers that were his thing. He was just somebody just was watching the sheep at his daddy's house. And they was going to war with the Philistines, and the Philistines would come out for 40 days straight. They would come up and line up instead of all of us fighting, send your best warrior over here to fight me. This was what Goliath would tell him. Just send somebody to fight me. Nobody would ever step up. This went on for 40 days. And then only the difference between David and his brothers is David had 3 brothers that followed Saul. They followed Saul to war. So they were standing on the sidelines the whole time. His oldest 3 brothers. And David was the only difference between David, he was going back and forth to the war and to his father. He was going back and forth. The other 3 brothers followed Saul. David was going back and forth to Jesse, and he was going back and forth to the war. He was going back and forth. And then Jesse finally told him, he said, take this bread, take this cheese, and take this food to your brothers and bring me back some assurance that they're okay. He went up to them and made sure they was okay. And he basically was going to take that information back to his father. But he overheard Goliath this time saying what he was saying. And what upset him was the fact that he was talking about his God. It wasn't the fact that he knew they was trying to fight the Israelites the whole time. But when he mentioned disrespecting his God, when David stood up, David had the least credibility as far as anybody. He had no experience as far as fighting. He has no experience as far as using swords and body armor, any of that kind of thing. But he knew who had his back. He knew if I'm up against a giant, I know who to go get. That's what everybody else was missing is Saul was standing over there, old in his age. You had the brothers over there believing in Saul. So you had this whole army. Nobody would step up and fight this Goliath because they were thinking that they were fighting this war themselves is the difference. They were fighting in their own might. David wasn't thinking nothing near that way. He was thinking that you're disrespecting my God. I know if I am taking care of his sheep, because the sheep is what he was supposed to be taking care of anyway. He knew that if I take care of the sheep, God takes care of me. He knew that when the lion came up against the sheep, he destroyed the lion. He knew when the bear came up against the sheep, he destroyed the bear. So no long as you're doing what God tells you to do, taking care of the things that you're supposed to take care of, like he says, take care of the sick and the shut in, take care of the children, take care of the widows, do the things that he's asking you to do, and you're in line with God, he's going to fight your battles for you. And that's all you have to worry about. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. David knew that he was in line with God, and he knew that if he was taking care of God's business, God was going to be there in the midst of it. He said, I'll do it. He said, they said, you'll get to marry his daughter and you'll get riches. And then he said, run that by me again. No, what'd you get now if I go fight this Goliath? So he went out there. Saul gave him his sword and his armor, and he said, we'll go out there and God will be with you. That's what Saul told him. But then he said, take this off because it's too big. I can't wear it. I ain't used to wearing this. This is not what I'm used to. You know what I'm saying? We put a lot of things in our plate in front of us, and we dress ourselves up in all these different things, thinking this is going to help us fight our giants. We put all our makeup on and all our nice suits and our clothes, and we go to all these different seminars and webinars and all these different things, thinking this is going to prepare me. But God is your protection. He's your provider. He's the one that's going to get you ready for your battle, is what we sometimes leave out. So when he took everything off, he went out in front of the 9 foot. It was 6 cubits and 6 cubits tall, which was 9'9". This giant was way bigger than David would have ever thought about being. But when he went out against him, he was like, "Why are you coming towards me with sticks and some rocks?" He said, "You think you're fighting a dog?" He said, "No, I'm coming to you with the might of my heavenly Father. God is going to fight my battles." He said, "My God is not going to fight you with swords and spears." He said, "But I'm going to lay you down with a stone, with a rock, and I'm going to cut your head off." So we have to look at the scriptures and see what it's really saying. It's saying we don't have to fight with words, because the tongue is a two-edged sword. Sometimes it has the power of life and death, and we can cut deep with that. We can talk a good game. We can speak a good game. We can take a spear and try to fight our battles. But what David did was use the rock, and the rock is Jesus Christ. We have to realize that all we need is Him in order to fight our battles. We're trying to use all these other things and all these measures that the world tells us to use, and He said, I'm not going to defeat you with any of that. Take off all the armor, take off all the suits and the makeup, the education, all these things, and just give me my rock, and I can defeat my giant.
Give me my rock.
And that's all we have to
He's
realize.
my rock, my rock, my sword, my shield.
And He's my wheel.
My wheel in the middle of the wheel. Hi. Oh, Jesus.
God is good.
Oh, Jesus. I got a word right there. That's a word. That's a word right there.
So give me, I'll defeat you with my
brother Stings. That's a word right there.
I'll beat you with my rock.
Brother Stings.
And it doesn't matter. I mean, He's going to, and that's the thing that we need to realize too, is when we're going up against whatever you're going through right now, whatever you're challenged with, if you're trying to get a job promotion, if you're trying to do a business, if you're trying to build your family back up, whatever it is, and it seems like it is the most difficult thing to do, and you're going up against people that are way more educated than you. You're going up against people that are way more equipped than you, that are way more qualified than you, way more, the situation is too difficult for anybody to handle. And that's the same thing with David. They had a whole Israelite army on this side. They had armor, they had swords, they had spears, they had everything that they needed. They had numerous people on the side that anybody could have stepped up, and they had people with war experience. Saul had been through many wars at this point in time, but nobody stepped up but David. David was the one that had nothing. He was the one that had no armor. All he had was a slingshot and a rock. He had no experience, and that's the thing that we have to realize, that when God puts you somewhere, He doesn't put you there to leave you. Whatever you're facing right now is there for a reason. Whatever circumstance you're going through has to be there for a reason. It has to be there for you to be able to overcome it. If God wouldn't put you in it to leave you. So whatever it is that you're facing, it's for your faith. Wilderness experience, and that's how we build faith. Jesus went to the wilderness after He got baptized by John the Baptist for 40 days and 40 nights. Moses went to the wilderness for 40 years. So I mean, these wilderness experiences build us up. So whatever you're going through, whatever seems the most difficult right now, is supposed to be there for you to be able to overcome it with Jesus Christ. And that way you can become stronger in the faith. You become stronger in believing in Him. He said, I'm your present help in the time of weakness. And we have to realize that He does come through, and He is the one that fights our battles for us. And like Exodus 14:14, it says, let the Lord fight your battles and keep silent. And that's what we try to preach around here. And when we talk, we don't ever want to seem like we know everything. We're doing everything that the Bible says, because it's difficult for us too. We're talking off experience, and we're talking about things that we're in the midst of ourselves and that we're trying to be better at. But Exodus 14:14 says, be silent and let the Lord fight your battles. We always try to fight it by might and by things that we say and quick-wittedness and I'm right, you're wrong, and none of that ever matters. God said He doesn't even delight to anybody that wants to be right, because He's the only thing that's right. He's the only thing that's good. He's the only one that can fight our battles. If we just step back, ask Him what He wants us to do, and just charge forward when He says go.
Yes. Yeah, that's a word right there. I mean, I'm full. I don't know about you, but Sister Carolyn, yes, God's plan, it works. And I know you shared some things with me, and I appreciate that. And hopefully sometimes you would love to come on maybe and share your story with us, and share your story with our audience, and just let them know, because I know that there's some people that may have been through some of the things that you've been through, and you can share that with them. And so thank you for for just encouraging us as well. We appreciate that because you have totally been a blessing to me in some times that when I went through something at one time when we met. And so I appreciate some words of encouragement that you spoke to me. So thank you. And you never know what you might come up against. You never know what you might experience. And life is already tough enough. But you don't have to create things that aren't real. You don't have to create giants because there's something that you don't want to face or there's something that you feel like is too much of a challenge for you. Take it to the Lord in prayer. Go to him and be in your secret place. Go to him and allow him to comfort you. Right now, we're studying prayer and we're studying why we pray and why we should always pray. And it's not to go to God and ask him for things. It's not to go to God and tell him about our troubles. Trust me, he knows them all. But it's to go to him and to rest on him and to listen to what he has to say, to receive his words. And that's a blessing. His words to us are a blessing, not what he can do for us, but how he loves us, how he comforts us, how he cherishes us, and how he tells us that we are his own. He doesn't want anything from us. He just wants us to give him all the glory and all the praise. And so let's worship him in spirit and in truth. Let's not continue to worry and fear and doubt. There's trouble on every side. But with the Lord on our side, whom shall we fear? He has told us all the promises. He has gave us a way out of darkness. He is the truth and the light. And he is the Lord Almighty and everlasting. So what giants are we fighting? The battle is his, not ours. So on this day, make it your declaration that you are not in this alone because the Lord, your God, goes before you and he fights your battles. And he is God and God alone. He doesn't need your help. He is your help and he loves you. Never forget that.
I have to leave you with the Bible says at the end of the story with David, they said, "Whose son is this?" And they said, "His Majesty, I don't know whose son that is." So they went and got him and said, "Whose son are you?" And they brought him in front of Saul. When they found out who he was a son of Jesse. He was in front of Saul. So we need to realize that your gift makes room for you, and your gift will bring you in front of great men.
Yes.
And we have to realize that I'm not talking about the gift that he's put in each one of us. Your gift is Jesus. That's what makes room for you. That's who brings you in front of great men. That's who fights your battles and slays your giants for you in order to be able to be in the presence of these different things that you're trying to accomplish and you're trying to defeat. So we have to realize and remember that.
Yes.
That your gift makes room for you and brings you in front of great men. And Jesus is the gift.
Yeah. So lift him up. As he says, if I be lifted up, I will draw all men unto me. God bless you. Thank you so much for joining in tonight. I hope that this night you are mindful. I hope that something that was said on this night touched your spirit. I hope that whatever you're going through, it stopped you in your track and reminded you of who you are and whose you are. That you know that you don't have to fear, you don't have to worry, and that you don't have to doubt because you are never alone. He is a good, good father and he loves you. Trust and believe that always. And remember, never ever forget you were created with a purpose. God bless you. Now go mind your business.